Have you ever found yourself wondering, do we need more security or more freedom? Or what about this one? Should a leader be ruthlessly effective or should they be, a good person? Well, today, we're stepping right into the ring for three incredible philosophical face-offs. These are the debates that literally shaped our world and, believe it or not, still define our lives. So let's get right into it.
And look, these aren't just some abstract questions for old, dusty textbooks. Nope, these are the fundamental dilemmas of being human. We wrestle with these questions every single day, whether we realize it or not.
So to really get to the bottom of it all, we're going to see how some of the greatest minds in history just battled it out. Think of it like 3 rounds of intense intellectual combat, with absolute titans of thought going head-to-head on the biggest issues you can possibly imagine.
Okay, first up, we've got a classic showdown that pretty much defines modern politics: order versus liberty. In this corner, we have Thomas Hobbes squaring off against John Locke. This fight is all about the most basic question: what is government even for?
Hobbes kicks us off with a famously grim picture of humanity. He argued that without a super-powerful government holding us in check, our natural state is just a war of all against all. Life is driven by fear and this ruthless need for self-preservation. Yeah, not exactly a pretty starting point. But then, Locke fires right back with a way more optimistic view. He believed that even without government, in a so-called state of nature, we're already governed by natural law. We already have inherent rights. We're not savages. We just need a good referee.
This table really lays out their differences, doesn't it? For Hobbes, the whole reason for government is to escape fear, so we hand over our rights to get security. But for Locke, government's job is just to protect the rights we already have. And here is the absolute kicker. For Hobbes, you basically have no right to resist the government. For Locke, oh yeah. If the government breaks that trust, the people have every right to push back.
And trust me, this is not just ancient history. Every single time we debate national security versus our personal privacy, or government mandates versus individual choice, guess what? We are refighting the exact same battle between Hobbes and Locke.
All right, on to round 2. This one is a fight for the very soul of leadership: power versus morality. In this corner, the master of political realism, Machiavelli, and his opponent, the champion of divine and moral law, Thomas Aquinas.
So Machiavelli basically gives leaders this cold, hard-nosed playbook. The number one goal? Maintain power and keep the state secure. And if that means you have to look virtuous while acting ruthlessly behind the scenes, so be it. The ends totally justify the means. He's the guy who famously said, "It's better to be feared than loved if you can't be both."
But then Aquinas comes back with a completely different vision. For him, a ruler's authority doesn't come from strength, it comes from a higher power, and it must be used for the common good. A leader has to be a moral example, ruling with justice and following a universal moral law. For Aquinas, politics isn't some separate game from morality, it's a direct extension of it.
So here's the core conflict right in a nutshell. For Machiavelli, what's right is whatever works to keep the state secure. But for Aquinas, any action that violates moral law is just wrong, period. He even said that an unjust law isn't really a law in the first place.
And this debate is absolutely alive and well today. I mean, think about it. When we look at a politician or a CEO, do we judge them on their results, on how effective they are, or do we judge them on their character and their moral compass? That's just Machiavelli versus Aquinas, playing out right in front of us.
And now for our final round. This time, we're going even deeper, to the very source of our moral compass. It's a battle for our inner selves, reason versus feeling. Here we have the great logician, Aristotle, going up against the skeptical sentimentalist, David Hume.
So Aristotle's big goal for all of humanity is something called eudaimonia. It's this idea of true human flourishing, of living well. And he believed we get there by using the one thing that makes us unique, our reason. Basically, we think our way to living a good and virtuous life.
But then David Hume comes along and just completely flips the script with this absolutely radical statement. He says, hold on a second. Reason doesn't drive us at all. Our feelings, our passions, they're in the driver's seat. Reason is just the navigator, telling the passions how to get to where they already wanted to go. So you see the fundamental split, right? Aristotle says we use our intellect, our practical wisdom, to figure out the virtuous path. It's a thinking process. But Hume argues that no, morality is all about emotion.
We call something good because it gives us this pleasant feeling of approval, which usually comes from sympathy for other people. We don't think something is wrong, we feel that it's wrong.
And this debate, it plays out inside every single one of us, every single day. When you're facing a tough choice, do you try to reason it out step by step, like Aristotle? Or do you just trust your gut, your feelings, like Hume will tell you to? It's the ultimate showdown, head versus heart.
So we've just witnessed 3 epic rounds with 6 philosophical giants. But this isn't just a history lesson, right? We're left with this really important question. Why do these ancient fights still matter so much to us today?
I bet you're wondering, right? Hobbes or Locke? Machiavelli or Aquinas? Aristotle or Hume? Who actually comes out on top? Who wins?
But what if that's the completely wrong question to be asking? You see, the really powerful thing about these philosophical face-offs is that there was never a final bell. They never declared a winner, because these aren't finished arguments. They are ongoing conversations. Conversations we're still having in our governments, our workplaces, and yeah, even inside our own heads.
So the real takeaway here is this. These debates aren't just sitting in books on a shelf. They are alive inside you. Every time you make a political choice, every time you judge a leader, every moral decision you make, you are casting a vote for one side or the other. The arena for these fights is your life. So the real question isn't who won back then, it's who wins now, in the choices you make every single day.